Thanks very much. Have a good one. Okay, good morning world. It's now Tuesday, December 27th or something. And my project for today, well, I've got a bunch going on today. Today, I'm not really working. Those of you at Dojo U know we're on a class hiatus, but I am working because I'm getting my solo pipe really sorted out today. So I'm going to do my chanter. I've been talking about this for a while now, just getting this properly retaped. The reason it's been so long is that I haven't been able to find any of this, Gugon, which is magical stuff, and it's going to help me clean off my chanter so I can get that going on. Let's see. Then I'm going to have a practice session. Then, if I'm smart, I'm going to figure out how to get home in order to nuke my rocks, to get some dry rocks. Although I might save that till tomorrow. But then the big thing that's going on is I have a lesson with Donald this afternoon. So it's my last one before the contest. So I'm going to have to be on my game, hopefully. So that's what we're doing. We're getting the gears turning again after the Christmas holiday. Okay, so first let's talk about tape. First of all, if you're one of those people who thinks that your chanter shouldn't need any tape, you're dead wrong about that, and you need to stop thinking that. And if you don't want to stop thinking that, this is not the episode for you. Tape is what we use to fine-tune the notes on the chanter. There's no such thing as an instrument in the world that I can think of that does not require at least some fine-tuning. Even the greatest piano ever made requires fine-tuning. So does an organ. So do woodwind instruments, brass instruments, so on and so forth. The idea that you should have a chanter that doesn't need any fine-tuning because it's just the world's most perfect chanter is just not right. Okay? Every reed that you get based on microscopic little variations in different reeds, it's going to cause slightly different tuning of various notes. What you want and what you can get in the marketplace nowadays are chanters that have a great bass. Okay, the holes are located in just the right way. The shape of the chanter is engineered in just the right way that you can get a great stable bass to work with. But then you'll notice, if you can see, although the light background against the dark makes it hard, but I actually have tape on every single note here. Some notes, like the E, I don't know if you can see that, have very little, if any, tape. But I still have tape available there above the hole in case I need it, right? Because I want to have this in place for fine-tuning at a moment's notice. Quite literally, in a competition, I can be tuning my pipes in front of the judges before I get started, and I could theoretically tweak the tape of a note. And that's the idea behind tape. So today I'm going to change all this gunky ass gross tape with new stuff, and I'll show you exactly how I do that as well, which should be pretty fun and interesting, I hope. Okay, so look, we need to get all the tape off of this chanter, right? But we also, I at least, want to remember this configuration because everything was really nicely tuned before I started messing around with this. So that's where the first handy trick comes in. There's a couple different tricks I've seen. One of the tricks I've seen is to just put like a piece of tape on the inverse side and to mark where it is. But for me, I'm gonna draw a picture of the chanter here. Here's my high A. Okay, I'm just literally gonna draw a little diagram of my chanter. G, F, E, D, C, B, low A, and 2 low Gs. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chanter. Okay, there's nothing on high A. All right, there is about a third on high G. There's a little less than a quarter on F. The tiniest little smidge on E. About a third on D. About a quarter on C. My B is like kind of misshapen, and that's due to carving. Whoops, it looks like I did forget low A. Here's my low A, and I've got just under a quarter of the low A covered. And then the low G, one side has a very little bit, and the other side has quite a bit. I might want to balance that out later when I have that. So there you go. That is my tape configuration. So I'm going to have that for later. But now what I can do is I can start to clean off my chanter. So I'm going to get all this tape off. Here's a piece of tape that I have here. See how this is below the low G hole? That's low G. But why would I do that, do you think? That piece of tape is a spare. All right, so if any of the tape falls off or gets sticky or gross or needs to be moved or what have you, right? I have those spares in place. I usually have 2 or 3 spares down along the bottom. So look how gunky and gross this chanter is. Okay, super gunky, super gross. Now this is where the Gugon comes in, and it really is magical stuff. There are rumors that it will sort of like mess up the finish of your chanter maybe, or anything like that. And you know, I don't Gugon that often, but I haven't really found any negative effects to the Gugon whatsoever. So, you know, you can do what you want. Looks like this has a little hole in it at the top, so just gonna sprinkle some Gugon on a paper towel. That, in my experience, that is actually gonna be plenty, that little stain there. Another thing that happens, you know, as you play your pipes, right, over time, right, as time passes, not like macro time, but, you know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes as you're playing, the tuning of certain notes can change, right? So you want to have, like for me especially, you'll notice, again, if we look at my diagram here, you'll notice the bottom hand. Oh, I did miss a hole there, didn't I? Yeah, that should have been the B. Extra hole, there you go. Always happens when you're on camera. But over time, you'll notice the bottom hand tape configuration is pretty liberal. There's a lot of tape on there. Well, I find that those notes tend to fluctuate quite a bit over time. So to have quite a bit of tape there is something that helps me keep everything perfectly in tune and allows me to make very minor adjustments over time as I play. Okay? Just letting some of these oils kind of evaporate off maybe a little bit, as much as they would. However, with that said, of course, we're basically at the next phase where we are ready to add some tape to the equation. Now, with my super tape, okay, the next thing I want to point out is that I like to use scissors. The X-Acto knife I'm using today, because I don't think I have any scissors in here at the moment, and it should be okay. You know, it's a nice razor blade, but we want a straight, smooth cut of this tape if we can. And that's going to make it last longer without tearing. All right, that's going to make it last longer without tearing on the bagpipe. I don't know if you could see in my GoPro or even in here how that I did a quick job there, and I didn't. You know, and I just ripped it, and it wasn't a good, you know, tear. And that is going to cause problems for me. It's going to cause rippage later. Okay, next tip. I cut my this is for super tape at least. I cut at an angle, and I try to get a smooth, continuous cut all the way through. Okay, for now, that tape is just going to live there. All right, and I'm starting by making some pieces of tape. Don't make them all exactly the same length, because the holes on the top hand require shorter pieces of tape, and the holes on the bottom hand require longer pieces of tape. Now the shorter pieces go on top. All right, and so the name of the game here is I'm going to refer to my diagram. Now I had no tape on high A, but look, I'm still going to have tape at the ready up there in case I need to apply tape later. Okay. So high A tape is going on. High G tape. Looks like I had about a third on high G. That's very common, especially in the winter time, especially in my part of the world. High G tape. F looks like it had maybe Now this low G had a ton, I don't know, you probably can't see it. This low G had a ton of tape on one side and hardly any on the other. So I'm going to balance this out by putting, you know, a decent amount on both sides. But, you know, not too extreme on either side. It just seems to make logical sense to me to balance things out. Here's spare number 1. Spare number 2, and spare number 3 I'm going to put right on the bell. And there you go. So that is my freshly taped chanter, good to go. All cleaned off, no goo, and this should last me for, you know, a good little while before things start to get gooey again, and then I'll replace the tape again. It took me almost exactly 15 minutes. Yeah, headed up to the famous Pucker Toot Road, and I'm going to show you the cool road up the mountain, which is pretty exciting. Going to get a few tunes going, and hopefully things go pretty well today. So we're about to reach the base of Pucker Toot Road. Just have to be careful not to run over this nice lady and her dog. And we're going to take a little left at the fork in the road and then up Pucker Toot Road.
correct and proper and good. But a little tiny bit more tempo here would make this more compelling. And I think that's the nature of all these tunes that you're putting in. How can you really draw everybody in and say, wow, listen to that? I just think it could come up a couple notches.
Okay.
We're talking microscopic notches, tempo-wise.
Sure.
How about the last phrase of the singling and then into the doubling? And let's try and, I'm trying to get a little bit more feeling.
Man, that pipe is solid.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? So I mean, everything one would
Finally,
hope.
it's almost like luck. Like you fart around long enough, and eventually you're like, oh, that's going to be my pipe.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that thing is so stable now. It's so you, as I said before, you now have a platform upon which to play that's going to support you. Your interpretation of the ground and the first version was wonderful. Your tempos all the way through were excellent. The one note, you picked up the one note. Sometimes when you're playing
getting through a tune and having confidence that your drums aren't going to move.
exactly. And it might be smart to practice in some slightly varied temperatures.
Well, my office is pretty challenging. It's very like
Cool temperature?
yeah, like there's a heater in there, but I usually turn it off because it has a big hum.
Right.
But then when you turn it off, then the temperature starts to dive
That's
throughout
right.
the
That's
practice session, and then so it gets interesting. But it seems to stay pretty solid.
Well, it becomes something about adaptability, because we all want to play in a bell jar all the time, but the truth of the matter is sometimes it's not a bell jar.
Right. It's usually not.
Yeah. So that means just, familiarize yourself with some varied conditions.